All right. So here we are, the certification test prep questions. So these are pretty much a guideline to pretty much give you an expectation of what the exam is going to be like. So again, it should be anywhere from 50 questions. I've heard that there are some tests that are shorter than others, okay? But you should aim for 50 questions, okay? So each section is broken down to particularly percentage of how much knowledge you need to know for each particular topic. So you have 50 questions, okay? Two-thirds of it is going to be multiple choice, and one-third of it is going to be navigation. So when you get your practice exam, okay, so you have to wait a little patiently since you aren't leaving us right away due to a lot of things that are going on in the office. You may expect the practice exams to get to you maybe a week later than after the class. All right. I'm going to send the email today, but hopefully we'll see how quickly Casey, our accountant, is going to purchase the practice test. And this is from the actual company that you are certifying the QuickBooks for. So that means they're going to give you a mock exam or an actual practice exam of what the actual certification test looks like. So the multiple choice questions are going to be, similar, but the navigation. So how you do the navigation on the practice exam is the same thing that you're going to do on the actual exam. It's point, click, and drag. All right. You may need some a few pointers there. So the first couple of practice exams you may be a little rusty on, but definitely if that's the case, remember, it's mocking the exam, so you're being timed as well, and it is exactly 50 minutes long. So, in a sense, it may be a minute per question. So you have to work very quick. Now, of course, multiple choice, if you know the material, you'll be able to blaze through a lot quicker, but it's the navigation portion that is our biggest concern. The passing rate is a 70%, okay, to pass this certification exam. I remember yesterday you asked me what's the passing rate on the first time. Most cases, not very well, not very good, not very high, just because it's a lot of material. But once you see the exam for the first time, then the second time around should be much more easier. Now, of course, I would, like I said, you seem to do well on the multiple choice, so I don't have any issues with that. It's just the navigation portion. And again, two-thirds is only going to be 60%, so you have to be able to ace that navigation, at least some of the questions in the navigation portion. So again, you need to score a 70% to completely pass the certification exam. 50 minutes. Again, it's through Certiport, and you will be testing at the testing center. Okay. Now, how this works in order to get your voucher, okay? So the voucher, once you get your voucher, you have one whole entire year to schedule when you can take your exam. Now, that's our guideline. That's the professional, that's what our guidelines is, and that's what is the guidelines for Certiport as well. However, for workers' comp cases, they usually make you test 30 days after you take the exam. Take the class. So you may be on a time pressure limit. For other cases, they do want to try to get you tested as soon as possible within that time period, just because you don't want to stray too far away from the class that you just took. Because again, if you don't practice it every day, you'll forget it. So that's why I leave the videos for you to, use that as a practice tool to go through the whole book once again and go through all the materials over and over again. So that's what I'm leaving the videos for, and that's what I'm leaving the classroom for. So you have access to it at any given time, and I believe I'm going to leave it up for maybe 6 months, and then after that, I'm deleting it. Okay, so just a little heads up there. The practice exams, okay, you're going to get a total of 4 practice exams. And each practice exam, you can do it about 30 times each. All right, so that's the rules and guidelines to the practice exam. Now, you get a total of 4. That's a lot. And if you notice that on the Google Classroom, I've also placed in 3 more practice exams. It's just purely multiple choice, so no, I have no way to be able to give you the navigation portion. But if you are, like I said, your best practice is directly from the book. All right. There's only a few things I taught that wasn't from the book because that's something that you're going to have to learn outside of the book, okay, which is when you go out in the real world, okay. But again, just focus on the ones that are in the book. It gives you a step by step on how to do it, so you can't go wrong with that, okay. So as far as that, yes, and how you're going to schedule with the testing center is you need to prove to Casey, who's the person that's making purchases, or Denise, or Randa, who is in charge of the testing center. You need to validate with them that you've passed the practice exams at least twice with a 90%. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you this as a recommendation. I don't think you should stop at 2. I think you should keep going until you've hit 90% at least a couple more times, maybe like 4 or 5 times, just to ensure that you're okay. Because even though you have 4 practice exams, right? The first test you might get a 70, second test you might get a 90, third test you might get a 90, and then the fourth test you get like a 50. All right, so you want to keep practicing until you hit that 90 percentage at least 4 or 5 or 6, 7 times, okay? That's just to guarantee that you know the material and that you're guaranteed that you'll be, a higher success rate to pass the certification exam. The most thing I really want to encourage is I really want you guys to at least attempt to try to score and pass the first time. I never want you to have to fall back and go on a second time around, because once you exhaust that second time around, you are subject to have to pay for the next time you want to take that certification exam. Okay. And it's included in your training anyways, so it doesn't hurt to try to take advantage of what you have. And like I said, you're really good at the multiple choice. It's just the navigation portion I worry about. So once you can provide that you have proof that you've passed the exam at least 90% of the time, at least twice, right? That's where you call the testing center, and they're going to help you log into your Cert report, and they're going to purchase the voucher for you right then and there. And they're going to schedule you on the date that you want to take it. If you take it at LVPTA, you get, you're a student here, so taking the exam is free, no cost included. Anybody that's coming into LVPTA, or if you have to go to another place because it's just more closer, convenient to you, they will charge you an additional fee for booking that place, and another additional fee to rent a locker. Anything, they'll have those fees included. Well, if you take it at our school, all of those fees are covered, all right, because you took the class at our campus. So the testing comes basically free. All you have to do is just be well prepared and go ahead and just take the exam. Last note here is that a big recommendation is read the book at least once or times before you take your exam, just so then you can get a quick refresher of everything. Okay, so any questions so far? All right. Everything. So yep, 50. Aim for 50 questions. Your test could be less than that. So aim for 50 questions. Again, 2/3 are going to be multiple choice. 1/3 is navigation, like you're actually going to take your mouse and click and drag. All right. Now again, I've mentioned this many times before, but I'll reiterate it today. Navigation. It will ask you, okay, to enter the bill. You, as a student, should know all 7 ways to enter in a bill. Okay? And that's the thing about the QuickBooks is it's going to ask you, but it's not going to tell you which way to enter it in. You're going to try to enter it in. If you click on the homepage and they say, wrong, try again. You're going to do the menu bar, wrong, try again. You go to the vendor center, enter it in through the new transactions, wrong, try again. You may have to exhaust every single way that you know to enter in a bill until it accepts your answer. Okay? So sometimes you may be lucky. It might be the very first thing that you try. Though always number one thing that I tell you all the time too is like the first thing that you want to do is go to your homepage. It has all the icons there. So that's like the easiest pointer right there. Boom. Homepage. Boom. Enter bill. But again, QuickBooks, the certification exam isn't going to just only test you to just only that basic knowledge. They want to know they want to make sure that you know the ins and outs. So they might exhaust you to the very 7th one. Like maybe you have to use the income tracker and enter a bill that way. And if they accept your answer, then they'll let you know and they'll move on to the next question. Okay? Other things too is if you've never taken a certification exam before, you do have the option to skip the question. Now there's 2 sections that you can do. There's one where you can skip the question and go back to it, or there's one that you can completely skip. Now if you skip any of those questions and don't click that back to that question, it's going to mark it wrong.
Okay.
So every question that you skip and do not go back to is going to be considered a marked or wrong answer. So that's going to hurt your score. It's going to go against you. So make sure if you don't know, click that skip for now or skip and go back to that question. Okay, so there's 2 options that you can do. So just in case you don't know the answer, skip it and go back to it. That's the option, okay? Because I had a couple students who also said that, I skipped it and I didn't press the skip and go back question, so they end up getting that whole entire thing wrong. So that's majority of things that can go wrong on your first attempt because you're not quite familiar of how the formatting or how it's going to be. Like I said, Certport is going to be the actual company that's providing the exam as well as the practice exam, but I can tell you this. They're not going to be identical, okay? They're going to be similar, okay? So, again, yes, similar, but not identical. So, you may have some troubles taking it for the first time. So, with that being said, any other extra questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right into the questions. So each section, there's a total of 5 pages, and each section is broken into pretty much like percentiles of usually how the test would would give you a, an estimated guess of how many questions should be on that exam. So again, we talked about the three main portions of QuickBooks, right? You're dealing with your vendors, you're dealing with your customers, and you're dealing with your employees. Those 3 are going to make up pretty much majority of the exam because those are the major transactions that you need to know the ins and outs for. Okay? So let's go ahead, and also a major section is knowing what QuickBooks is and how and like what editions they offer and what options that you can choose. So that's going to be very important, okay? And then a small section is going to be, of course, the accounting background. So making sure that you understand the fundamentals of fundamentals of accounting, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first question here is, what information is required before setting up the QuickBooks? So again, this is section for a QuickBooks setup, which is approximately 6% of the exam, which is approximately 3 questions. So the question here is, what do you think is required before you set up your QuickBooks file?
You need to have a start date.
Yes.
Company's name.
Absolutely. Okay.
Opening balances are good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sales tax,
Yes.
if they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Inventories, if they have inventories.
Good.
Probably. Oh, you want to verify your trial balance.
Yes, good. So, all of those, remember, so if you remember this, it's in your chapter 12 uh, book. If you go to I don't even know what page it is, but if you go to your chapter 12, so I'm going to go ahead and open up a chapter 12 real quick. So, chapter 12, company setup, that what you just mentioned was this entire list right here, this 12-step setup checklist. So good. You mentioned open balances, start dates, good. Inventory, opening balances, comparing your trial balance, good. So this is a good, so page 346 is definitely going to be very, very, very useful for you. So page 346. Good.
Okay.
All right. Okay. How to start a new company data file in QuickBooks. So again, we talked about 2 ways that you can set it up. What are they?
The express start and the easy step.
Okay. What's another word for the easy step?
Detail.
Detailed. Good. Okay, hold on. I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, there you go. So there you go. So we have the Express Start. What do you need to know in order to use the Express Start? Like, what details do you need to know for the Express Start?
It seems like you need to know everything that's on the 12-step setup.
Okay. Okay. So do you remember? Let's go. Let's try to remember back. So what's the difference between Express and Detailed Start? Why is it that there's 2 different types of way that you can set up a company file?
Oh, one of them is a quick way. Just
Exactly.
so you can get it going.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And the other is just to you've got all the information.
Perfect.
You may have a lot of it.
So the Express Start, remember, this is for more experienced users. So I'm gonna write experienced user, experienced users of QuickBooks, right? Someone who knows how to set it up without having to set preferences, like doing the Easy Step interview, because the Easy Step interview pretty much it gives you it's pretty much you answer yes or no, and it sets up the file for you. Okay, so again, this one is more for beginner users, and it goes through a series of questions about, okay, go away Siri, I didn't ask about you. It goes through a series of questions, okay, about your company. And helps set preferences. Okay. So again, with the Easy Step, with the Express Start, right? You're basically just entering the basic information, such as your company name, what kind of company it is, or a business activity, what industry it belongs into, and if you have an address. Everything else you have to set it up manually. All right, you have to set up inventory if you use it, set up time if you need to, set up sales tax if you need to. Where the Easy Step interview, or also known as the Detailed Start, we go through a series of questions and we either answer yes that we do charge sales tax, yes we sell products, yes we use inventory to track, yes we use time to track everything, yes we have employees, right? So you're answering a series of questions about your company, and it helps you set up your preferences. So this one, again, that's the difference between the two, and good job. Okay. So now the next one is how to keep the lists and preferences from an old a file while and removing all of the transactions. So again, this is chapter 13. Do you remember this? This is one of the things that we talked about yesterday. How do we do that? So in this case, the question is asking, how do you keep all the lists, all the preferences, everything is saved, but remove all the old transactions? That's somewhere in the right area, but not memorized. Okay, it's something that you have to complete at the end of a closing period.
Oh, that's when you condense files.
There you go. Good job. Okay, so good. This is condensed files. Okay, so how do we navigate QuickBooks in order to do that? How do we get to there?
Well, we have to make sure that we have our. Now, I'll make sure I'm not mixing it up with closing an accounting period.
Okay.
So if we want to keep that, if we're going to condense the files,
Go ahead and use QuickBooks and be able to see where do you find that condensed data? Okay, I heard go to file.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's got to be a file utilities. So
Yes, it is a utilities. Good.
and then you go to condensed data.
Condensed data, good. Always rule of thumb is that it will always ask you. First thing is, did you make sure you make a backup of the file? Because if you're going to get rid of all the transactions, you want to make sure you have a copy of all the old transactions. So good. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in there. So in order to do this, you are going to go to File on the menu bar. Okay. Then you're going to go to Utilities. Utilities. Yep. And then Condense Data. Good.
Okay.
All right, good. Now, next question here is, how do you customize the home page? Ooh, good question. How do you customize the home page? Okay. How do you change the icons on the home page?
I think you can change the icons on the homepage, can you?
Yes, you can. We talked about this maybe a couple times when we were dealing with inventory. And I also showed you in chapter 7.
Can you go like edit and then preferences?
Yes, good job. That's exactly how you do it. You go to edit and preferences, and every single topic that you have here is basically how you customize your homepage. So for example, if I were to go to inventory or items in inventory, right? If I say I don't have inventory and I click OK, next time I open up the home page, look what happens.
Oh yes, that won't be there.
Exactly. So good. Edit preferences is exactly the answer I was looking for. So edit on the menu bar, preferences, And then, of course, you have to also select company, right? You want to make this an executive decision, company preferences. Okay, and it's going to be based on whatever subject that you are trying to do. Now, how else do we also do that? So we also set that up during the easy step interview. So I'll just tell you that one. So when you go through the easy step interview, every question that you answer, right? Do you have inventory? Do you charge sales tax? Do you keep track of time? That is essentially building your home page right there. Okay.
Okay.
So that's just something in case, like again, if you're an avid user, that's something you should definitely know that if you want to customize the homepage, you could just do it through the Easy Step interview. Okay, to set company preferences. Good. All right. You could obviously you could do a lot more than just only inventory, right? You can even toggle whether you want statements to even appear on your worksheets. I mean, on your home page and stuff like that. But as far as, and then even if you turn off your payroll, you will not see payroll at all at the bottom. Okay. Good. All right. Next question here says that how to set up lists. So your customers, your vendors, your items, etc. Okay. And this includes understanding. Excuse me, I'm about to cough. um, which um, which names and items should appear on which list. So pretty straightforward, right? You know who is going to be on your customers list. So customers, vendors, and obviously your employees. You should be able to know that and know how to create that list, right? But this one is also more geared towards doing the chart of accounts and setting up your items list. So we did briefly talk about this in chapter 7. Chapter 12 is for chart of accounts and chapter 7 was for items. Chapter 7 also gives you a guideline on setting up your price item list, your other lists, right? So anything that's considered under lists is going to be anything that we talked about in chapter 7. So we talked about items list, we talked about the sales tax codes, we also talked about class lists, okay? So the only one that you wouldn't be able to, which we did teach in chapter 10 and 11, is the payroll item list, okay? But yep, that was all chapter 7. So pretty straightforward, being able to understand how to enter each one and create it, which we know. All right. Chart of accounts, pretty straightforward. It's a list of all the accounts that exist. Your items. What is items lists geared towards?
That would be anything like sales tax and your price levels and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So it's anything that is in regards to the sales process. So items, sales process. Okay. So whether it's charging tax, whether it's giving discounts, whether it's actually inventory parts, right? That the items that you sell. You can also do other charges. So, for example, if a customer decides to pay late, you can do an other charge to charge them an additional fee on top of that. So, anything that's an item, it's going to be sales related. Okay. Of course, and then every other item on that list right there should be pretty straightforward, right? Payroll items is meant for payroll. Your sales tax codes basically, gives you the list of how you charge your customers tax. Okay, pretty straightforward. All right, good. So again, it says how to set them up. Pretty straightforward, right? How do you create your chart of accounts?
That's getting well. You set up your chart of accounts when you're doing your initial setups anyway.
Yes, that's true.
What's going to be on there?
Okay, but what if you don't use the easy step interview?
Oh, then it's all that manual procedure.
Yeah.
You go to like, come on, menu pull down. You go to like lists and go to chart of accounts.
List chart of accounts, and it's pretty straightforward, right? You just go down to the bottom, add, 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 add.
Oops.
Okay, we'll talk about that section actually, because that's one of the questions in this questionnaire. So I just want to make sure that you understand how to create them. So it's pretty straightforward, like you
Hold on
said.
just a second. I dropped my pen and I need to get it real quick.
Don't for it. Go for it.
And
Okay. So yes, this question will be asked in a couple questions below. But okay. So good. Just making sure that you know how to set it up. All right. Now again, this is again utilities and general product knowledge, which could consist up to 5 questions. So a student should know how to navigate or move around in QuickBooks, okay, using the home page, the menu bar, and the icon bar. So again, those are the 3 things that you need to know, right? How to navigate QuickBooks, right? The only 3 ways that you can navigate it is, again, we got the home page. The home page is a graphic depiction of every single transaction that is there, okay? Your menu bars is a list of every single transaction that exists in QuickBooks, all right? Even the ones that you don't see on the home page, all right? And then your icon bars are basically anything that gives you a quick shortcut to a particular location. So if you need to go to the vendor center, click vendors. If you need to go to the income tracker, it will show you all of your bills. Okay, so that's how you navigate QuickBooks. All right, pretty straightforward there. All
I
right.
think that's where I was always getting confused. Is like, with the home page and the menu bar and the icon bar, I'm thinking these are. I was getting confused as to which one I needed to go to a lot of times, and it really didn't matter as long as. Well, I mean, it did especially if you're using the menu bar to give you everything, but not the shortcuts and stuff else.
Yes,
I
and
think everything I've ever had has only had a menu bar. Everything I've ever worked on.
Okay, and that's exactly why the homepage was created, because it makes it easier to understand the flow of a transaction, because it is a graphic depiction, right? If you're going to be entering an invoice, then you're expected to be receiving a payment, and once you receive the payment, you're expected to deposit your money. So again, these little graphic, arrows and stuff, they give you a pretty much straightforward concept of a sales, right? Versus having to have the accounting background to understand sales, you don't need it, because it gives you right here, pretty straightforward. It gives you direction on where to go. Okay. So with that being said, so again, the home page, like I said, it should be your first thing that you should go to, because it's there. It should be displayed there. Okay. And then second thing would be your menu bar. But if it's easier for you to go straight to the menu bar, you may do so. Okay. It's just like I said, it's pretty much straightforward by just clicking on your home page first. Generally it should be the first thing that you should go to. All right. Usually. All right. So again, how to navigate is pretty straightforward if you know how to understand the home page, or how to go through the menu bars and the icon bar. So that's pretty straightforward. So now the next question is how to back up and or restore a data file. How do you do that?
You can go to the file,
File.
back up,
Pretty, yeah.
open or restore company.
Good. So file, menu bar. Okay. You're to back up, you're just going to click back up company. Or if you want to restore, you could go file on the menu bar. open or restore file. Okay, yes, and we've been practicing this to open this, but tomorrow we'll practice on actually creating a backup file. Okay, since it's part of the fictitious business. We're gonna create. Not create it because it's already created for us. We're gonna enter in our data and we're going to practice how to back up the file. Okay. How to determine the release number and how to update QuickBooks. So let's answer one question at a time. So first off, how do you determine the release number?
F2.
Yes, release number is going to be F2 button. Yes, F2. So again, if I were to do that here, it will show me every single detail I have about QuickBooks. It even tells me that I downloaded this onto this exact computer since September of 2019. All right, and it says here that, okay, so the release number again is going to be the R. In this case, I've never updated my QuickBooks, so I'm still at the number 1 out of 22.
Right, R122.
R122. That means I'm on the first one release out of 22. Okay, so that means I've had this for almost a year now, and I've had this for a year now. It's already past September 2020. So we're on January. I've had this for a couple years now, and I've never updated it. So that R is the release number, and it's out of 22. Okay? So good. R1. Now, next question says, how do you update your QuickBooks? Help. Yes, help on the menu bar. Good. And then where do you go? So there's two differences between updating and upgrading. Okay. So you go to the help menu, and what do you see?
Oh, I see. Upgrade is sitting by itself, but update is in the couple above that.
Yes. So updating is to update the release. Upgrading is going from Pro to Premier or Enterprise. Okay. That mean like upgrading the entire program itself. Where you're updating is you're just updating the patches that are released by Intuit. So updating. So good. Update QuickBooks desktop. Good. That's how you update the file. So you can go to help on menu bar. Okay, now here's one that a lot of people miss as well. You can always update your file when you when you click on the QuickBooks, right, and you're starting to start the application. The first thing it's going to ask you is, would you like to update QuickBooks? All right, it's the first window you're going to get before you can even open up the program. So that's something that a little extra information, but that's definitely something you can do. So when you start the program. Yes. Good. Okay. Good. All right. Next question here is how to use QuickBooks in single user and multi-user mode. So I don't remember, but I did. Yes, I did. I did mention this. How do you do this? How do you switch from single user to multi-user mode? This is something that we had to learn in chapter 12.
Go to File.
File on the menu bar. Good.
And switch to multi-user.
Okay, so what does that do?
It allows other people to be able to. Wait, am I thinking wrong?
Nope, that's correct. That is
Okay.
100% correct. All right, yes. So when you switch to multi-user mode, right? We learned in chapter 12 how to set up other users, right? Because when you create your company file, essentially you're the admin. So when we set up our other users, which I remember teaching this to you, like I can set up one that has access to only the payroll, right? I set up HR. I can set up one for sales. I can set up one for just billing or just for accounts payable, right? I can set up any position and they have access to specific parts of QuickBooks. So by toggling that little window to make it have multi-user mode, all of those people can have access to the file at one time simultaneously. Now
But
that
they
that
each have to have their own password.
Yes, absolutely, that's correct. Yes. Now with that feature though, you have to be on a single network. All right, so that's a little IT that you have to know as well. That most people that can do that, usually they're all in the office under the same network. Okay. All right. So again, file, menu bar.
Um, yeah,
Yes.
file, and then go to switch to multiple user.
Mhm.
Oh, I thought you were asking.
Oh, no, 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 no. I already asked you. I'm just typing in everything because you already answered the question. All right, good. And same thing, if you already are on multi-user mode, you can go ahead and go back to that file and you could switch to single user mode. So same position, so there's no second way or anything like that. So that's the way for if in case when you set up other users, right, you just have to know that if you do have that capability, right, you can switch it from multi to single or single to multi. Okay. All right. What editions of QuickBooks are available and how to find and which one they are using? Okay, so let's answer the first questions is what are the QuickBooks editions?
Those are Pro, Premier, Accountant, which is kind of what we're using,
Uh-huh. So there's
Enterprise,
Pro Premier, Accountant, and Enterprise. There's one more.
Online.
Yes.
That's all the
Yep.
advertising on TV right now.
Absolutely. Because it again with the vast majority of technology, right? It's ongoing. Everything's being saved on the cloud. Everything's being much more easier to transfer data over the internet, right? By accessing the cloud, right? So again, so I have pre-promo, we have enterprise, and we have online. Okay, that's in your book. Okay, we are not looking into the newer ones. The newer ones, there's actually different ones. You have the main three, which is the Pro, Premier, and Enterprise. However, they have newer features such as the self-employed, the online version, the live version. Oh my gosh, there's so many versions right now. But again, since you are being tested for 2018, you're only required to know these five editions: Pro, Premier, Enterprise, Accountant, and Enter and online. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now, how do you know which one that you're using?
You do F2. You're
F.
pulling up.
Absolutely.
You're pulling up your. Oh shoot.
You're pulling up everything, your license number, everything on when you downloaded it, and it tells you the exact program that you're in. All right. But then again, it's like if you clicked on your QuickBooks icon, it should say what it is. But you know. All right. So how to password protect QuickBooks? I taught you this one too. How do you password protect QuickBooks? You go to company on the menu bar. Good. And how would you go about this?
You go to set up users and passwords.
Go to set up users and passwords and oh my gosh. Specifically, if you're setting up your own or locking your own admin account, you're just going to go ahead and change your password. Okay? If you haven't set one. But if you're setting up other users and other passwords, then that's where you're going to go for that one. So, yes. So, that is good. So, let me go ahead and write that. So, company on the menu bar. And then you're going to go set up users and passwords. Good. All right. Also, it's also in the Easy Step interview. If you remember way back when, from the very beginning, about 3 weeks ago, is one of the questions that you are asked to do. And for our scenario is you never want to do it right then and there because you're more likely to forget it.
Leave it blank until we know.
Exactly. So I'm going to say Easy Step interview. All right. So once you have that, good. Okay, so how and why to use preferences. Let's talk about how first. How do you use preferences?
Use your preferences to set up the homepage.
Okay, good. You could do that. How? Set up the homepage, okay. But how do I get there is the question. No, not list.
Edit.
Edit, good. Edit and where do we go?
Down to preferences.
Good. Edit menu bar preferences. And how many preferences can you change? Or what preferences can you set? For who?
Yourself
Mm-hmm.
and company.
Good. So edit menu bar preferences. And then you have the choice, right? Either user preferences, or in this case, it's if you're on the desktop itself, it would say My Preferences. Mm-hmm. And then you can set up company preference.
That's exactly what I did to find it anyway. Find the answer there. So.
Perfect. And then let's see, why do you use preferences?
Use this because if you were to set up an account,
Okay.
like inventory,
okay,
you want to look at certain things
Mhm.
by typing, it's going to autofill.
Okay. Not that one.
Okay.
So it does go along with why build your own homepage?
Hopefully to make it easier for you to follow along.
There you go. It makes why is to make it easier to enter transactions. Okay. Or in this case, to find transactions. Okay, just because like same thing. Like if we say I want the homepage to have the inventory items on there, that way I can locate my items a lot quicker and I can be able to enter the transaction a lot faster. Same thing with customizing, other stuff, right? So good. That is why we use preferences, and especially under user preferences. Like, what if we like instead of blue, we use pink? Not that it makes that much of a difference, but at least it's somewhat appealing, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here, okay, we finished that whole section. Wow, you're doing actually pretty good. Okay. Now we're going to be diving into list management, which is 6% of the exam, so it's approximately another 3 questions. So here, let's break down the next set of questions. So question here is how to manage your list. So your customers, vendors, items, etc., and how list management works is how do you add the list? Let's talk about that. How do you add? So obviously, when you manage all of your items or all of your list, right, they actually kind of have the general features, or they have similar locations on how to add stuff, right? So so let's talk about people first. So I'm gonna put people. Okay, so that's your customers, vendors, and employees. How do you add them in there?
You can either go to customer, vendor, or the employees. There should be
What do you mean? On the menu bar?
a menu bar.
No. You cannot add a customer, vendor, or employee through the menu bar.
Even if you have the item list.
The items list does not directly correlate with the people.
Okay.
How do you add a new customer, vendor, or employee? Where do you have to go first? Let's
Go to file first.
no, not there. Where do you have to go in order to enter in a new employee or a new customer?
Oh, you have to go to the center, don't you?
There you go. You have to go to their respective centers. And then what? Right at the top of the window, you can add a new person. Okay? So you need to go to their centers, and then at the very top of the window, you have new customer / vendor / employee. Okay? All right, what about items? How do you add new items? Oh, go ahead. Making a note? Okay.
Yeah, I'm making notes while I'm doing things. Go to lists from there.
Yes, you could go to list to see what other items that you want to place. So items in this case, I'm referring to anything that's not a person. Okay, as in like your chart of accounts is not a person. Your items list is not a person. Your price list is not a person. Your your payroll items is not a person. Your sales tax codes are not people. So all of these, okay, what do they all have in common when you click on them? How do you add items into the list?
Don't you go to? Okay, if you go to the item list, I'm trying to think on how to add.
You have to basically go on to their list first.
Right.
So you go to list and you select, let's say, chart of accounts. Once you're here, how do you enter in a new item? That's to search it up. Okay, so let's go down to the window, the very bottom of the window. So what do we see here? We see accounts, right? If I click that little triangle, what are my options I can do with this list?
Oh, you can edit.
You can add, you can edit, you can delete, you can make the account inactive. So that is universal to every single list that's on here. So if I go to my items list, right? Okay, I did not go to my items list.
There it is.
Okay. All right. So if I go to my items list, right? Same thing. Down at the bottom, I click items. My options are the same. I can add a new one. I can edit. I can delete. I can make this item inactive. All right. So any list that you have here is going to have the same kind of feature. They're going to have the drop down menu at the very bottom left corner, and it's going to give you options. Okay. So in that case, that's what I'm going to type here. All right. Items. Okay, items, right? I go to list, right? On the menu bar. I actually go to the list, select a list. Bottom left corner. Drop down menu. And then select new. Okay, that's how to add. And of course, deleting entries is the same thing, right? Except we
Never delete.
yes, good. That's a good one. I'm going to place in here in capital letters so you remember. Never delete anything. Okay? But again, if you need to delete, it's pretty straightforward. As we saw before, if you go into the items list, right, the only difference is instead of clicking new, you click delete. For people, what about people? How do I delete somebody in my customers list or vendors list? Okay, in this case, I don't think I showed you. I showed you how to edit them, but you can right click on them and you'd be able to delete them. Okay, so that's the only difference here is that you have to be on the center, their respective center, and instead of going to new employees or manage transactions or new transactions, you unfortunately have to click on the actual individual and delete him. Right click and delete, or you can go to edit and you can delete it.
Okay.
So that is there. So I'm going to copy and paste this information, except it's not going to say the same. It's going to say a little different. Okay. All right. And then, of course, people, you need to be in their centers. And except you got to do this. Instead of going to new customers, you're going to right click. Ooh, right click, delete. And then for items, instead of that, you're going to actually select delete. Okay? That's just in case you need to delete something. But in most cases, we never delete anything. We have to, actually, never delete anything. Okay? The alternative is make inactive. All right. Same thing with edit, right? We explored that, so that's pretty much the same thing here for the customers and stuff. You can edit their information at any given time by right-clicking and edit, or they have the little pencil icon at the top of each person's profile. Same thing with the list. You just go down to the same triangle, except instead of selecting delete, you select edit. So that one's, I'm going to leave this section so then you know that it's essentially the same thing. What about merging entries? Do you remember this one?
Yeah, this one you have two entries like conferences and conferences and luncheon seminars, and you wanted to put it under one, so you select the one you don't want to keep.
Good. You select the one you don't want to keep, and what do you do?
Then you hit merge.
Mm.
I'm thinking is what it is. It's like we gotta go to it.
Okay, so you got everything correct. So you got the ending, and you got the beginning, and you got the ending. But what's in the middle? What do you have to do to the one that you don't want? Because you're gonna select the one you don't want. But what are you essentially doing to the one that you don't want?
You're not deleting or deleting it.
No, you are not. So we're gonna select the one we don't want. Yes. Okay, and we're gonna edit. And what do we edit the information for? Yes, edit information to reflect the item wait, hold on. Edit. You're going to edit the information to reflect the item you do want, right? Including name. It has to be name, and it has to be account number if you use account numbers.
And it has to be the same kind of account.
Yes. Good.
It's like it has to be an expense account, or they both have to be expense accounts, or they both have to be.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. That's good. Good that you noticed. Good that you know that. It has to be something that is in the same account type. Good. I'm going to put that in here. Same account type. Right? Good. And what that you do want, and then you're going to get a message that says, do you want to merge? Okay. And then I'm going to write here, merge. All right. So I'm going to actually put a little note underneath here that you're going to have to change the information, right? You need to be account name. Okay. And, okay, account name and exact account number if you use it. If you use account numbers. Okay. This description doesn't matter because that's something that you can't, that's, you're interchangeable, right? You can always edit the information later on, but the description does not have to be the same. Okay. All right, good. All right, so we're good on time, and we've gone through 3 sections so far. All right, let's see what the next section is. So items. So this is where we're going to be talking about that particular section right there. Okay, so a student should know, all right, so approximately 4 questions, how QuickBooks uses items to perform the necessary accounting behind the scenes. So again, this is definitely something that you should, this is chapter 1. I'm going to make a note here, chapter 1. Okay, you may need to do some reading here. Chapter 1 explains explains how how QB does the accounting behind the scenes. Okay, so it says that every time you enter in, or first off, the reason why we have the QuickBooks being able to do it is that because we set up the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is very, very important because every transaction that we link, it's associated to some account. So every time we enter in a bill, right, that means we are entering a transaction for something that we ordered or something that we maybe it was a service. So it's going to increase either an expense, and in return, it's going to affect our accounts payable because we owe the money. We didn't pay them off that day. We're increasing an accounts payable. So in behind the scenes, it's debiting an expense and it's crediting a liability. So again, go to chapter 1 and read all about it, just because it's hard to explain, especially because you're not getting the accounting after this. So it's definitely a chapter 1 thing, because it does give you that little section on how QuickBooks does the accounting behind the scenes. Okay. Okay, so the different types of items and when to use each type. So, again, how many items do we have? All right. Well, no. Okay, we can create as many as we need, but how many different types of items do exist? So that's definitely a chapter 7. Okay, let me go ahead and open up chapter 7 so we can find that page. So here's chapter 7. All right, I believe items is this section right here. Under item types. Okay, so all of these are going to be the different types of items that you're going to be using. Okay, so again, on page 212, 212 and a part of the top of 213. So I'm gonna make a note there. Okay, so item types list on page 213, 212-213. So we have a total of 10 items, right? I'm just gonna go briefly, verbally go through each one. When do you use a service item?
Anytime you buy or sell.
Ooh, provide a service. Okay, so you want to be careful because this is a service item. When do you use it? The question is, when do you use a service item? So buy and sell.
That's when you would be doing a sales system.
Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, in context of placing it on a sales form, yes. So the question is, when do you use a particular item? For example, the service item. When you either are creating a service or you're providing a service, right? Essentially, that's when you use it. That's the question that I'm asking. Okay, so same thing here. When do you use an inventory part?
Whenever you're tracking it, so that's when you buy or sell.
Correct.
You're not really monitoring it.
Correct. Okay, not monitoring is going to be the non-inventory part. For inventory part, you are monitoring it. You are keeping track of it. You're making sure that that the purchases go through, and you're constantly updating your inventory. Where non-inventory part, you don't care too much. It's just an item that you do sell, but it doesn't sell very often. Okay, so that's a non-inventory part. So when would you use let's see. When would you use a group item?
That's when you're bundling services.
Good. That's correct. Okay. Now, a bakery is an example of an assembly item. But the group item, you were treading on the right lines. It's when you sell a bundle package.
Oh, that's right. That's like picture frame and with the photo sessions.
Good, good, good. So yeah, so remember, group and assembly are two different things. Group is you're actually taking two whole parts and just smashing them together and calling it a day. Assembly allows you to take certain portions of a part, right? So like a bakery, right? You can do units of measurement. That's what they call it. And create an item. So essentially, the assembly item is used to when you are trying to create a product, right? Where group items is already items that's already been created, but you're just smashing them together as and call it a bundle. Okay. So that's the difference between the two. Okay, and then lastly, let's go ahead and say, when do you use a sales tax item?
That's when you sales tax. That's when you sell your goods and services.
Yes, you charge tax. Okay, so again, sales tax item, right? It depends on what state that you live in, what state that the company is in, and also the local county, because every county charges us an additional on top of the state. Okay. So good. So just making sure that you understand the ins and outs of using all 10 items. So again, the list is on page 213 and 212. So, I hit the wrong button. So yeah, let's go ahead and answer the next set of questions. Okay, so how to use items to differentiate the types of in a specific scenario. Okay, so these can include, so again, we talked really briefly about each one. So again, products for a specific price, pretty straightforward. You use an inventory item for that. Deleting entries, again, we never delete anything, but in this kind of sense, we can use items such as to delete the entries, right? We would reverse it, or we can use the $0 check to move the items around. Or I'm sorry, we would use the other charge. Remember? Do you remember when we had to do bad debt expense to write off the to basically essentially delete the entry? Services for specific prices, again, you use the service item for that. Unique products of a service. Okay, so unique products meaning in assembly, right? You create the product itself. Okay, so then again, yes. And then again here, for one service or product, again, you can either use inventory part, but in this case, if you're using it to bundle up, then you'd use a group item. Okay. All right, so right now, let's see if we're good on time. Okay, it's 2:40. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay.
Not time for a break yet. Almost there. All right, we're halfway through this already. We finished up 1. I cannot count 3 pages. But again, because we kept adding more stuff to these, yes, it's just extending. So let's go ahead and go through sales. Sales, you see this? 10% of the exam. So that means it could be anywhere from 5 questions. So a student should know who should be listed in their customer center. Pretty straightforward, right? Who should be, who are your customers?
That would be, I don't want to say vendors could be a customer.
A vendor can be a customer. Yes, you can.
Employees.
Employees cannot be a customer. Well, I mean, technically they can, but in this case, usually when you work for a company, you either sell them at a discounted price or you just give it to them. But yes, so anybody that could be on the customer list is pretty much anybody that you sell your items to. Pretty straightforward. All right, how to navigate and use the customer center. Pretty straightforward. If you can use the customer center, right? As far as navigating, as far as navigating, it's pretty straightforward. For any transactions that involves a customer, is going to be how you navigate your each center, right? So In this case, I can either add a customer, I can, release statements because they're customers. I can also have them create. I can create sales receipts, invoices. I can even do estimates, or in this case, we call them sales orders. Yeah, there's pretty much what you can do. You can even run reports on them, right? By going down to the bottom window where it says reports, and you can run reports on them. Okay? Yeah, so pretty much navigating the customer center is pretty straightforward. All right? So, how to complete the workflow from sales to making a deposit. So, let's go talk about the first one. So, the first one is, how do you determine the difference between the sales receipt and the invoice? How do you differentiate the difference between them?
Well, if you're making a sale,
Okay.
you can either create an invoice, or I'm sorry, a receipt at that time.
At time of what?
At the time of sale.
What is the most...
If it's a cash
Good. Good.
transaction, and then from there you've gotten your payment. There's really nothing to do other than record the deposit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good.
If you're getting like credit card sale, well, that's almost instantaneous too with EFT.
Yes.
But if it's for services that are going to be paid for after, that's when you need to create an invoice.
So, good. So, customers. Okay. So, the difference. So, good. So, the customers pay at time of sale is when you do a sales receipt. This is when customers pay after time of sale. Okay, so good. And again, when you're looking at the invoices, you need to also receive payments. Okay, so same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and insert another tab here on recording deposits. Recording deposits. Okay, what's the rule of thumb here when you record deposits? What must you do first, and what must you calculate?
You're going to have to calculate sales tax.
No, not sales tax. Sales tax is automatically. This is recording deposits. What happens when you receive a check in the mail? Or what happens if you receive a check from a customer paying for their items, right? And it's sitting in the record deposits section. What's the rule of thumb that you should do?
You should do. You're making a journal entry.
Okay.
And I may be using the wrong terminology.
Okay.
So, but you're showing you're recording a customer payment.
Okay, so that's receiving payments. Okay, this is the aftermath, right? So here, let's look our flow of transaction. Once you've received your payments, right? Okay. So here I received my payments from my invoices. I've also, of course, when I get a when I get a sales receipt, I automatically get the money. So now the next thing is I'm needing to record the deposit. How should I record my deposit is the question here. Because there's a rule to there. Can you just combine all your checks, cash, and credit cards and EFTs transfers? Can you just do them all at once?
No, you should separate out your credit cards.
Yes, because why? Yes. Okay, so general rule of thumb here is you want to deposit your cash and your checks first because those are going to be instantly going through. What's the problem with credit cards?
You get paid right away.
Yes, but what's that little fine line that you have to calculate? What do you call that?
Oh, your service charges.
Yes, because again, if you're going to be reaching out to Visa or MasterCard saying, hey, I want you to be able to collect the money for me, they're going to say, okay, we can do that, but the agreement is that I need to take at least 1% of your sales.
Right.
So, yes, so you need to calculate, I'm right, calculate interest slash service fees. Okay? Um, because they want to collect the debt. And EFTs, you may even have your own program where if you say, hey, I'm going to charge a convenience fee because you decided to pay me through electronically, but nowadays it's free. But if you, especially when you go into a company, you can set those rules and guidelines saying, oh, if you do an online payment, you have to pay a convenience charge. That's considered an EFT transfer because if you're paying online, right, it's going to go wired straight to your account, but you also charge an additional fee on top of that. So again, if it's an EFT, you may pose any type of convenience charges that you want. Okay.
That's right.
All right. So how QuickBooks uses the undeposited funds and accounts and checking account in the invoicing cycle. So again, this one is in lines with this. So again, if you remember this section, it is in chapter 2. It tells you basically what the undeposited funds do. So again, if you think of it in a real life scenario, right? When you receive a check in the mail and it's from your customer and you acknowledge that you received a payment, where does the money go? Where does the money go when you receive a check in the mail? Where does it go?
You're going to be recording deposits on it.
Right, because this is a real life scenario, right? It's in your hands. So in order to record a deposit, you have to go down to the bank and physically deposit the money. And when you come back, you'll have a deposit slip, and then that's when you can record your deposits. So in this case, this is in chapter 2. It says that if you are planning to record customer payments using the invoices, you have to set up an undeposited funds account. Okay, and that's where your record deposits go. Okay, undeposited funds account. Okay, you have to set this up in order for when you receive a payment, where is it going to really go? And then once you make your deposit, it's going to automatically drop it into your checking account. Okay, so that's a little interior thing there that you have to set up the undeposited funds if you plan on receiving payments in order for you to have your record deposits section. All right, and by you actively recording the deposit, it's going to go ahead and transfer from the undeposited funds into your actual checking account. Okay. Usually, if you set it up having invoicing, it should automatically create this account for you. All right. How and why to record a customer credit?
You want to record a credit whenever they have a return.
Customer returns. Good.
They've asked for it.
Okay.
Although they
Demand.
don't mind sending it back, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There's two more.
Okay. What happens if a customer decides to call you and say, hey, I don't need it anymore?
You could give a. They'd have to send it back. So
Well, in this case, what happens if they haven't paid for it yet, and or you haven't sent it out yet, and they
oh, haven't
call?
sent it out. Have we already debited an account? I mean, charged an account for it, or
In this case, it's like what do you call it? You made an estimate for them or a sales order, right? And then it's in process, right? And let's say they do pay for it, but you haven't sent out the product to them. What do you call that when they call you up and say, I don't need the stuff anymore, send me the money back? Can when they cancel. When
cancel.
Yes, when they cancel the order, right? When they tell you, "Hey, I don't need the product anymore," and you already paid, right? Let's say you did an online payment, and you call them up and say, "Hey, actually, I don't need the product anymore. Can you cancel my order?" And then that way, they have to transfer the money, and by doing that, they have to create a credit, a customer credit. Okay, and then the last one is what if they, what if they did receive a discount and they paid it in full though?
If they paid in full, you just send them back the part. You send them back the full payment.
Okay, so I'm gonna say, okay, so let's say I gave them terms, right? I gave them a 2% discount if they paid in full within those X amount of days. What if they just gave us a check and just sent us a full check for the full amount, and they met the discount period? So therefore, the customer, what do they do? We have to send them back the money, right? The difference, right? So it's when a customer overpays is the last one. Okay. So we have one where a customer is returning a product. If they demand a refund, cancel the order, or if they overpaid for an order. What's the last thing that we also use a customer credit for? There's one more thing, and this expanded to this is chapter 3. This expanded out into two different things. Do you remember what that was? What do we use the customer credit for?
You can use it for a future purchase.
Okay, that's an option that you can choose, but I'm more gearing towards what happens if a customer refuses to pay or they just can't pay.
Oh, you can use that to offset a bad debt.
Good. To write off bad debt. Good. Right, and I taught you two ways, right? The book teaches you the direct write-off. I taught you the accounting allowance method. Okay? So, again, the one that's in the book is going to be the direct write-off. Right? How and why to create statements. First off, let's talk about the how. How do you create a customer statement?
We send them a statement so you can show their history of their activity. Basically, they ordered this and they received payment here, and there was another order.
Good. So that's the why. Why do you send them? To let customers know the history of their transactions. Good. But how do we create one? How do you create a customer statement? Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much straightforward. You go to statements.
It's like you go to statements.
Yes, you can either go statements or on the home page, right? And I taught you two more ways to be able to do that, right? You got the home page, you have the menu bar, right? If you go to customers on the menu bar, you could create the statements there, or you could create the statements when you go to the customer center, right?
Yeah.
And you right click on them and you can create the statements there. You're not able to do it under the manage transaction, okay? You can enter statement charges, but you can't create a statement here. Same thing up here, the transactions up here, new transactions, you can't create a statement there. You have to right click on the actual customer and create the statement there. Okay, so again, on the menu bar and the home page. So there's only 3 ways that you can enter in or create a customer statement. So how you could do home page, customer menu, or customer center right click. Okay, only 3 ways. All right. Okay, last question, then we'll go on a break and then come back and fill out the rest. Okay, so the last question here is how to handle bounce checks. Do you remember this one? This was a while back.
Yeah, this was way back.
This is a chapter 3. Oh, wait, actually, no, wait. Chapter bounced check. This is actually going to be chapter 5. When we were doing our bank reconciliation, this was one of the sections here. So it doesn't have to do chapter 2 or 3. Okay. Let's first, okay, so, yes. So in this case, let's say a customer sent us a check and it bounced. How do we assess that? How do we acknowledge that he has a bounced check? Receive payments, good. Or in this case, I believe, let me go to home. Okay, receive payments, good. All right. We're at the customer payments. Go ahead.
So should we record a bounce check somewhere, but we don't have anything in there yet?
Yes, you're gonna have to go to the previous one.
It's great. I see it's grayed out right now. Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, because you actually have to go back to the last payment. So in this case, no, yeah, I don't have any customer payments that are recently did. But anyways, if you go into another check, right, and then you record the bounce payment. So again, yes, you're correct. You need to go to the customer payment or the receive payment window, and then at the very top of the window, so receive payments. Window, and then at the top of the window, select
Record bounce check.
Record bounced check. Now, what happens when you do that? What happens when you click on that button? So I'm going to actually go to an actual customer real quick and find a check, and I'm going to pick on Bob Mason.
There should be a window that opens up.
Yes, absolutely. What does that window tell you to do?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's nothing to do with bounce checks, so we're going to be probably assessing some fees.
Yes, you're going to be assessing a fee. Now, I can't find a payment that someone recently did. So I'm going to record the payment real quick.
Okay.
I keep forgetting not to double click. So I'm going to go on the invoice and I'm going to say he paid. Okay, there you go. Okay, so receive payments. Alright, and I'm just gonna go ahead and save and close. Alright, then I'm gonna go to his received payment. And I'm gonna record a bounced check. Okay, record a bounced check. Ooh. It's still grayed out. You are right. Oh, because I have to click on which one he paid for.
Oh.
No, mine's still grayed out. I don't know why. Mine's grayed out. I just recorded the payment and it's still grayed out. I didn't even lock my data until. Oh, anyways, when you do end up going to that record bounce check, yes, you're gonna have to assess some fees. So the first thing it's gonna ask you is what you call it? How much did the bank charge you? Okay, and then it's gonna ask you how much are you gonna charge your customer based on the amount that the bank has charged you. So again, you're right. You're gonna assess bank charges, and you are going to charge your customer
So you're gonna mark it up a little.
a fee.
Mark up not the right word, but yeah.
You can mark it up, or you could just do a straight fee. Okay, so good. All right, so let's go. Right now it is 3:05. Go ahead and take a 15-minute break, so be back by 3:20.
Okay.
And we will continue the rest